I'm here today to convince you that your gear doesn't play the most significant role in the quality of shots you take. It also applies to the size of your camera's sensor because many people mistakenly worship the full-frame cameras. Before we break it all down, I will show you a few shots, each of which was taken with a full-frame and crop sensor camera. There is a difference, but I can't say it's very noticeable. I like how the shots look regardless of the sensor size, but still, let's understand the differences between full frame and crop sensor and how it affects our shots. A full frame sensor is the same size as classic film on 35mm cameras, 36 by 24mm. A crop sensor is smaller, so it can only capture a portion of the image. That means that at the same focal length, a full frame sensor will give you a wider angle than a crop sensor. The two most common types of crop sensors are APS-C and Micro Four Thirds. Micro Four Thirds sensors have a crop factor of 2, which means the image will be magnified 2 times. For example, by taking a shot at 24mm focal length with a crop sensor, you will get an angle of view equivalent to 48mm. Crop factors of APS-C sensors vary depending on the brand, but most commonly it is 1.5. Besides cropping the image, there are several other factors that distinguish a shot taken on a crop and full-frame sensor. Dynamic range. The dynamic range is usually higher on a full-frame camera. This gives you the opportunity to take images with higher contrast, preserving more details without falling into pure black and white colors. Additionally, if you accidentally overexpose or underexpose your photo, you will have more editing flexibility, thus fixing the mistake would be easier. Low light performance. Due to its larger size, a full-frame camera typically produces sharper and more detailed images when shooting in low light conditions. Because the sensor can capture more light, you won't need to increase ISO, resulting in less noise on images. Depth of field. Full-frame cameras are able to capture a narrower depth of field, which gives a more intense background blur. All of these differences are noticeable, but are not critical enough to consider them as disadvantages of crop sensor cameras. I would call them nuances or quirks. Plus, full-frame cameras have some downsides as well. For example, these cameras are heavier and bigger, so if portability is important to you, a crop sensor camera may be a better choice. This also applies to optics, because often the lenses for full-frame cameras are bigger simply because lenses need to work with a larger sensor. On top of all that, full-frame cameras cost more and the optics will also be more expensive. Therefore, it is important to understand how justified the investments in a full-frame camera will be in your case. Let's take another look at the photos that I took with the crop sensor. They look good, and if you don't take full-frame shots next to them, no one will guess what sensor it was taken on or whether something should look different. It's not the sensor size that gives you great images, it's the masterfully chosen camera settings, working with light, composition, and editing in post. This is what every photographer should focus on. The photos that I show you are a selection of successful shots in which I am satisfied with the composition, light, and the way they are all edited. Every photo requires editing, and if you can get the same shots after that, the question of whether it is necessary to buy an expensive full-frame camera disappears. This is how the photo looked before editing, and this is how it looks after. I use PhotoWorks for editing my shots. It is very convenient and it has all the necessary functions. To get this result, I first started working with the basic tools. I increased the saturation, vibrance, made an image slightly colder with reddish tint, thus adjusting the white balance. Next thing I did was raise the contrast a bit, lower the highlights, and lighten the shadows to bring out the maximum amount of detail in both the shadows and the highlights. Perhaps I will raise the exposure and contrast a little more. With the basic corrections done, now I'll move on to retouching. I want to remove the trash on the beach that got into the frame. To do it, I'll use the stamp tool. Excellent! Next, with the same stamp tool, I'll clean up the board from sand to make it more neat. Now I'll go to the effects tab and add film grain to the picture, which will add more depth to it and make it alive or something. I will increase the strength of the effect and zoom in on the image to check the result. I will adjust the grain size until I like what I see. Next, to enhance the intensity and beauty of the evening sun, I will add the effect of sun rays. It seems to me that it will look great. I will move the rays to where the sun is in the photo and make them look more natural by reducing the brightness and quantity. And finally, I will make a beautiful tint using the built-in color schemes. This warm golden tint should be perfect for an evening on the beach. PhotoWorks can be downloaded from the link in the description. Use a free trial or upgrade straight to the full version, available at 60% off. So check the description for a discount link. Alright, I hope now you totally understand the difference between the full frame and crop sensors, how it affects shots, and that now it would be easier for you to choose the right camera for your needs. If so, hit the like button to thank me and subscribe to the channel. Oh, and one more piece of advice: invest in knowledge and development while you're a newbie. Learn to work with light, how to edit photos, learn composition. All this will allow you to take great pictures with the camera that you already have or can afford at the moment. And if you ever decide on upgrading, make a choice based on your needs and preferences. Here is a really simple shot taken with the crop sensor camera that looks much better than what I would have got on the full frame camera. With a crop sensor camera, I didn't need to go in the salt water and risk damaging the camera as I would have on the full frame camera with the same focal length. And of course, do not forget to practice as often as possible. Embrace the shooting of photos as a cool way to get positive emotions and just have fun. See you guys in the next one.